What is the true origin of numerous Christian customs? Why do we decorate a Christmas tree or dye eggs at Easter? What does it have to do with the lighting of candles on Candlemas or with visiting cemeteries on All Hallows? Why and how did Christianity take over almost all customs of pagan seasonal festivals? In this project, I will answer you all these questions and clearly show you that Christmas, Candlemas, Easter, St. George's Day, Pentecost, Nativity of St. John the Baptist, Michaelmas, All Saints' Day, Feast of St. Demetrius, St. Martin's Day, and some other Christian holidays have their origin in the pre-Christian European spiritual tradition, which early Christians labeled as paganism. Based on our present knowledge of archaeology, history, ethnology, anthropology, and philology, today we understand much more clearly the real meaning and origin of all those holidays. They are all parts of the unique story of the same mythical theme in which the whole annual cycle is symbolically and mythically compared to a lifespan of a personified sun god who takes birth on the winter solstice and dies on autumn equinox. Within a year, he lives his life from birth to death and the new rebirth. Thus, a human life is an image of God's, while God's life is an image of humans, according to the principle, as above, so below, as below, so above. The wheel of the year is a cyclic model of a year, graphically represented as a wheel which is continuously spinning. Practically, it is an annual cycle of 8 seasonal festivals, or sabbats, which are evenly distributed on the wheel and divided in 8 equal parts. The winter solstice is a key moment for all life on our planet. An ancient human could only speculate what would happen next. Will the sun continue its fall and perish forever into cold darkness? Or will it stop falling and continue to rise above the horizon? That process has been repeating every year, so an ancient human had to readily await the solstice. During the first centuries of the Common Era, in Rome was flourishing the cult of the sun god, which has its origin in Syrian god Elagabalus. The sun was named Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun, while the winter solstice was named Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, birthday of the unconquered sun. The Roman Emperor Aurelian made it an official cult in 274 AD. Victory of the sun on the winter solstice has been symbolically represented as a birth of a child, still weak and completely dependent on Mother Goddess. But with each day passing, sun kept rising over the horizon, the child kept growing and becoming strong. In the middle of winter, he is already a little boy who foretells the new bloom. On the spring equinox, the sun is a young teenager who impregnates Goddess in her form of maiden, while in the middle of spring, they are getting married in a joyful celebration. The summer solstice is opposite to the winter solstice. The sun reaches its highest point, like a king at the height of his power. However, it is also the moment of his defeat, because the sun begins to move downward. In the middle of summer, his power is visibly weakened which is why we imagine him to be an old wise man. On the autumn equinox, he dies, which is a very interesting mystery. He goes to the afterlife, but appears one more time in the middle of autumn when he announces his rebirth. Finally, he returns to the mother's womb to be born again on the first day of winter. By the way, there are some other mythologems of the annual cycle. For example, an endless battle between the bright king who rules the summer and the dark king who rules the winter. Or a mythologem in which a dark deity abducts the bright deity's child. Obviously, there are no significant differences in the basic mythical idea. The point is in the conflict between forces of cosmos and chaos, taking turns ruling the world over and over again. The pagan wheel of the year has its origin in the calendar system of ancient Indo-European cattlemen who began to breed cattle some 10,000 years ago throughout Europe and Asia. A year is primarily divided into two equal parts, bright or summer and dark or winter. Ancient Slavic peoples considered spring equinox as the start of the year, when they worshipped a young god of spring, Yarilo. It was the beginning of the bright half, which would last until the autumn equinox, when the dark half of the year would start again. But as the Catholic Church had introduced the St. George's Day back in the 5th century already, on the 23rd of April, Slavs replaced spring equinox as the starting day of the year with St. George's Day. It was the beginning of a fiscal and agricultural year. Children started to serve their apprenticeships, and livestock were put out to pasture. The dark half of the year began on the 26th of October, or the feast of Saint Demetrius, named after another Christian saint, Demetrius of Thessaloniki, from the 3rd century, especially venerated among Orthodox Christians. On that day, there were settling accounts, children set off to school, and all crops had to be harvested. In this way, each half lasted 180 days. Together, they are 360 days long, while the remaining 5 days were inserted between the two halves. St. George's Day was celebrated for 3 days, and the feast of St. Demetrius for 2 days. Thus, a year would last exactly 365 days. Albanians had identical system, but they also divided each season in half, so that finally they have a year that consists of exactly 8 eighths. Medieval Celts marked the starting day of summer on Beltane, the 1st of May, which is only a week before St. George's Day, while Samhain, 1st of November, was their beginning of winter, only 4 days after the feast of St. Demetrius. They also divided both major halves of the year in half. Thus, spring begins on Imbolc, the 1st of February, while autumn starts with Lunasa, the 1st of August. On the other hand, Germanic peoples divided the year into 4 seasons, based on solstices and equinoxes, which is also the case in the civil or Gregorian calendar. So, the true beginning of winter, Yule or winter solstice, falls on the 21st of December, which is exactly halfway between Samhain, Celtic beginning of winter, and Imbolc, Celtic beginning of spring. This is why, in English tradition, with a strong Celtic heritage, the winter solstice is called midwinter, which actually means day in the middle of winter. In the same way, Litha, or summer solstice, which falls on the 21st of June, was named midsummer because it is exactly halfway between Beltane and Lunasa. By connecting solstices and equinoxes with Celtic festivals, we have finally got the wheel of the year, which divides a year into 8 almost equal parts. Solstices and equinoxes will occur each year approximately on the same date, usually shifting by a day or two. Celtic festivals, however, occur on the fixed dates. In the Neo-Paganism, these 8 festivals are called Sabbats. They divide a year into 4 seasons: winter, spring, summer, and autumn, as well as into 4 agricultural seasons: sowing, growing, harvest, and resting. It is important to say that the wheel of the year is not just a Wiccan thing, as some people think. Actually, Wicca only made it very popular in about last 50 years. The process of Christianization of Europe could be described as a carrot and stick approach. Everything that could have been taken over from a pagan substratum and given a Christian interpretation, it was taken over and assimilated. Everything that couldn't was declared as heresy and Satanism. That is most vividly visible in the calendar. Ancient pagan festivals were taken over by Christians in a way that numerous folk customs were preserved, but with new religious meaning being imposed. In sequels to this video, I will show you how all 8 pagan Sabbats were reflected into some 15 Christian holidays. But why exactly did all that happen? This is how a Croatian ethnologist, Vitomir Belaj, describes the emergence of the so-called bi-religiousness in Russia. Old Slavic peoples didn't oppose their pre-Christian rural faith to Christianity, but rather perceived them as 2 complementary systems. The main purpose of Christianity was to explain to a peasant how he should imagine a life in the kingdom of God, even how to shape his ethical viewpoints in order to take benefit of Christ's redemption. But for the course of the peasant's farming year, the old rural faith with its fertility rituals remained relevant and far superior to Christianity. A Christian priest knew how to preach many things about the other world, but when confronted with the mythical explanation of natural events, he necessarily had to fail.